The Kettle Falls is no more. When the dam, the Grand Coulee Dam and the Chief Joseph Dam were put in place, those dams blocked the passage of salmon. The salmon that the Ktunaxa people used to use as food. My ancestors had thousands of horses on the land here. We looked after the environment. And there's a place here called, where I'm at is Akam, and then not far it was a town called Cranbrook. It used to be called Akiskakliat, or what our Ktunaxa word is Akiskakliat, Joseph's Prairie. And from there, they followed what was called Walla Walla Trail. It actually existed long before first Europeans ever came to this land. It's the old Indian Trail.
Hello, my name is Marty Williams. I'm the son of Leo Williams. His name was White Bear Robe, and he's a descendant from the four grizzlies, Chatzaklautal. We're standing on the Walla Walla Trail, which is also part of the Dudney Trail. That Walla Walla Trail came from Washington, and the Dudney Trail was built from the Vancouver area, and the trail was used to bring supplies to the gold rush that was happening at what is now known as Fort Steele. And it passed through here to the St. Eugene's Mission, where we are now standing.
And with our horses, we traveled down there. A place called Lake Ponderay, or Ponderay Lake. We'd go down there in the summertime and we'd have Sundance with the Spokane Indians. And maybe other tribes would join in, but I know it was Spokane and Ktunaxa had Sundance at Ponderay Lake. And not far from Ponderay Lake, down the river into where the Columbia River is a Kettle River where it goes into the Columbia, the Kettle Falls that were there. That was one of the most significant places for Ktunaxa people for trading. It was our trade route. I've been to New York City and I've seen the artifacts that we have in the museum there. There's a great big weaved cedar basket. They call it a red osier vessel. And it's lined with kind of like some kind of cement gum of some sort. That is very significant. They were our cooking kettles. And we cooked fish in those kettles. In 1845, the father answered our call. We sent a runner back east. Send a priest, send the black robes. We want the Catholicism. We want to learn this way. It's important for us. And so Father de Smet answered our call. He came. In 1845, he first came to Kettle Falls, and he saw all the salmon fishing activity there. And then he went to Ponderay Lake, and then from Ponderay Lake he went over to what is called Akankami. It's Bonner's Ferry, that's what it's called today. And then he went north to what he called the Flatbow Indians. They're all part of the Ktunaxa Nation, but they used flatbow exclusively, while Upper Kootenai used the double curved bow. But other tribes also used the flatbow. Yakanuki, the people at Creston, he called them the Arcs de Plats, the French word Arcs de Plats. It means flat bow. And then he saw a fish ceremony, and it was magnificent. All along the west coast of North America, not all tribes, but many did a first fish ceremony. So the salmon, the first one that was caught, the first ones, they'd have a special ceremony for it. And they'd put the bones back into the water and look after it, pray, and give thanks. make sure the head is facing upstream. And it's remarkable that what he saw there. First of all, I want to speak about the legend of Kettle Falls. At Kettle Falls, there's this waterfalls coming down in 3 different levels, and on the sides of the river, the water, when the river goes up and down as rivers do, especially at waterfalls, there's these what they call kettles, but they're actually potholes in the side of the rock on the side of the river, and the salmon are swimming up the river, and some of them get stuck in these potholes, and then the water goes down, and there's the salmon, they're sitting in there in the potholes, and then the Aksmaknik people that live there, they said, that's just like how we cook our fish, our salmon. We cook them in kettles. So when Father De Smet came to Yakanuki and he saw that Donaja people, they had this long house, a teepee that stretched long, maybe 80 feet long. There's 80 men inside, all big long fire, and then they each had a big kettle about this big around in front of them. And then when the man, he gave the speech, the chief, and then they had to go to drop the red hot rocks. So they had fish already in these kettles full of water. And in the fire, they had to pick up the red hot rocks with these flat sticks and drop it into the kettle, and immediately the water would start to boil. In a matter of 5 minutes, the fish would be cooked. And then the men had to make sure when they eat that fish, they didn't break a single bone. They keep it all intact, because that's part of the ceremony. So Father De Smet saw all of this and witnessed it and wrote about it. And they were using these big kettles, just exactly as the same as the Indian legend at Kettle Falls. That's where we got that from. And so when we went to Kettle Falls, Aksmaknik people from all around, the Secwepemc, Syilx, tribes from down south, Nez Perce, they all came and gathered at these sites. Another place that was called Celilo Falls, downriver on the Columbia River. And so Celilo Falls not far from Walla Walla, Washington, actually. And those falls are underwater too. When they built the dams, they blocked the fish passage. Swakmu couldn't come up the river anymore. The Aksmaknik people weren't told. The fish aren't going to come. They just built the dam and blocked it off in the 1940s. I know they could build fish ladders, and in some dams there are fish ladders. There's a way for the salmon, the Swakmu, to come up. But when they built that Grand Coulee Dam, the government of the United States of America asked the government of Canada, basically US asked Canada, do you have any concerns about blocking the fish passage? The salmon won't be able to come up the Columbia anymore. I think the year was 1941, around there. I'm not exactly sure of the year right now, but late 30s or early 40s. Canada wrote back and said, there's no economic concerns. So they went ahead and built the Grand Coulee without a fish ladder, and other dams upstream got built over the years and decades.
My wife and I, we had our oldest daughter and our son, and sometimes we used to go to Lethbridge to shop, and this was in the late 1980s, and this one time I went down to McDonald's in Lethbridge to get some breakfast for the family, and this native guy was standing behind me. Apparently he was from the Blood Reserve, and he tapped me on the shoulder and he asked me where I was from, and I told him I was from across the mountains. And he said, "Oh, you're a Kootenai Indian?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, to me, he said, "Whatever happened to your people?" When I was a young boy, he said, when I was a young boy, my grandmother and I would wait for this Kootenai Indian. He would come over the mountains with his pack horses. And he always brought salmon with him. That's what he would bring into trade with our people. And he said, one year he didn't show up. And my grandmother and I never knew or could understand why he never showed up. So I explained to him that the building of the Grand Coulee Dam and Chief Joseph Dam stopped the migration of the salmon to the upper Columbia River system, which begins, the Columbia River system starts at Columbia Lake at an area known as Canal Flats. So the migration of the salmon stopped then, and that's the reason why that person never brought any more salmon to him and his family. And he went on to tell me, he said that his explanation about salmon and how come he remembered it, he said to his people, the salmon that they brought was like candy. That's how he expressed how the people felt about salmon at the time, that it was like a candy. Yeah, that's the story that happened to me in Lethbridge one time in the late 1980s.
Maybe one day, through technology, we will have the return of the salmon. But when they did that, it was like Indians, Aksmaknik people. Didn't matter. We had no economic rights, is what they said. But yet our people traded. And Kettle Falls and this trail, Walla Walla Trail, is important, and it existed before the fur traders came. We had thousands of horses, and we used those horses. In that museum in New York City are these Nez Perce corn husk bags that are labeled Kootenai Indian in the collection. And there's other things from, you know, a spoon made of cedar, or a bowl made of cedar, the inner Cambrian bark, what we call ishwas. Ishwas is the same that we line inside that kettle, that cooking pot. That was our Dutch oven. That pit cooking underground. So we remember those times through these stories. And one day the salmon will come back, and we'll be ready for them. Our ceremonies, our longhouses, our lodges, we're preparing the way. We're remembering what was gifted to us. That we made a covenant with the Creator to look after the land, and it will look after us. And that's what it's about. Hey.